Just in case you were wondering what that opening music is, that's actually my band playing live. I think it was one New Year's Eve we were playing live. So that's one of our songs. That song is called Swagger. It's let me put this up. Actually, let me just take this up here. I'm going to. There we go. We got our logo up there now. So let's see what we got. Comments. We got comments. Our friend Spot Lewis, I think from Philadelphia, says waiting. Can't wait for this discussion to start. We got some interesting things to talk about with this discussion. This is a very, specific discussion. Good morning with a cup of coffee from Philadelphia. I thought you were from Philadelphia. Matthew says, I had to buy the little guitar amp. I blame you, Richard. So here's the interesting thing, Matthew. This one, I got a black one coming this week, Wednesday. So I'm going to probably send this white one back and just keep the black one, because I wanted a black one when I first bought it, but they didn't have them on sale. The black ones are either unavailable or on sale. So I have a black one, black one, same thing though. I'm not sure I'll have to go online and download all my presets. Another good morning. How are you doing this morning? Good morning from Los Angeles. Very cool. Very cool. LA. We're going to talk about Los Angeles a little bit, as you might suspect, based on the title of today's episode. W song. I'm not sure what W song means. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for tuning in. So obviously, the title of today's episode, let me pull that up there. The title is tongue-in-cheek. Okay? Will Final Cut Pro on the iPad finally win over Hollywood? Final Cut Pro and TV Copy episode. Well, obviously, first off, the more you get to know me, the more you know, don't take me serious. If something seems a little wacky or out of place, take it for granted that I'm just pulling somebody's leg. So that title is that way. That title, but today I'm ready to fire it up. I'm ready to go. So we're going to talk about what direction is Final Cut Pro heading? In what direction is Final Cut Pro heading? We had the letter that we're going to go over and the response from Apple about headed somewhat towards Hollywood in a high-end production. Right? But, Apple responded and said some positive things. And then they come out with Final Cut Pro on the iPad for $4.99 a month. So the question is the release of Final Cut Pro on the iPad, does that move the needle towards high-end in Hollywood? Or does that move the needle towards beginners, entry-level? To me, it moves it absolutely toward the beginners and toward entry level. It does not move it towards Hollywood and high-end production. So Does that mean I don't like it? No, not at all. I'm going to say this very clearly, and I'm going to keep on saying this. I am glad that Final Cut Pro has finally made it to the iPad. I am very, very glad for people that want to edit on an iPad with Final Cut. I want to make that clear. I'm not saying I don't like it. What I'm saying is it's not for me. The subscription model is not for me, and I don't want to buy a new iPad. I don't use an iPad that much. If I want to edit on an iPad, I have LumaFusion. I have some other options, CapCut. I can edit on the existing iPad that I have. I don't have to buy a new iPad because I'm not going to buy a new iPad. And I'm not going to get another subscription. I don't care if it's $4.99 a month. If all you can talk about is, everybody who can't afford $4.99 a month, that's not the discussion. You're completely missing the discussion. It's not about $4.99 a month. It's about the subscription. The subscription is what I object to. Absolutely, unequivocally, I object to the subscription model. I am not going to be subscribing. I'm not going to be there on Tuesday morning waiting for it to go live. First off, I don't have an iPad that'll run it, and I'm not going to get an iPad that runs it. Now, once again, I'm going to keep saying this. For those of you that are excited about it and have the iPad, I am happy for you. I am absolutely happy for you. That's nothing that I am not taking away from your enjoyment and your excitement about this finally coming to the iPad. That's completely fine. I have no problem whatsoever, and I'm very happy for you. It's just not for me. I've been editing on Final Cut Pro on my MacBook Pro for years and years and years, and before that a Mac Pro, and I need what the Mac Pro offers. So we're going to have a little fun today talking about the iPad version and talking about does that move the needle towards Hollywood and high end, or does that move the needle towards beginner and consumer? Well, I think we all agree that it moves it toward the beginner and the consumer. It doesn't move it toward Hollywood and high-end video production. It has the opposite effect. So the question is, what are they doing? What is the Final Cut Pro team doing with Final Cut Pro? We don't know. We'll know Tuesday. 10.6.6 will be out on Tuesday. That's what I say. You know what? Oh yeah, I want to make sure I had some setting properly, and I do. Interesting article in 9 to 5 Mac about Final Cut Pro Mac going subscription. I've been reading a few articles. We're going to bring a few of those up today. I think this is totally looking at vloggers and beginners. Yes. Can a serious professional use the iPad version? Of course they can. Of course they can. But that's not what the target market is. The target market, I keep hearing it, it's to lower the bar of entry. I keep hearing it over and over again. They wanted to lower the bar of entry to Final Cut Pro. That's what I keep hearing is why they've done this. That's fine. That's fine. But it's not going toward the high end. It's not going toward Hollywood. It's just the opposite effect. It's gone the opposite direction. It's gone the opposite direction. It's at the low end, beginner level now. Doesn't mean you're a beginner if you use it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's what the market is. That's what the market is. Let's see what we have here. Wow, subscription iPad, yes. Final Cut Pro Mac, question mark. Yeah, what are we doing with Final Cut Pro? That's what excites me. That's what I'm interested in. Somebody asked me on Twitter last night, what are my expectations for 10.6.6? I have to say, and I've been saying this all along, my expectations for Final Cut Pro are way, way down here. They're very low, very, very low. So my expectations are, I want them to raise my expectations. I don't want them to meet my expectations because my expectations are down here. They're almost down at the bottom. I don't want them to meet the expectations. I want them to raise the expectations. So when 10.6.6 comes out, they've had other 10-point updates that had features. Okay, 10.6.2 was the last one we had. 16 months ago, we had 2 features. That's cool. 10.4.9 had the features with, they redid all the proxies and stuff. 10.4.4 was a big update with features. So 10.6.6, hopefully, let's hope, it's more than just compatibility with the iPad version. Let's hope it's more than just that. If it's just the iPad version, then they met my expectations. If it's just to be compatible with the iPad version, then the Final Cut Pro team have met my expectations. If they have some features added in there, they'll raise my expectations a little bit. So I'm hoping there's features in 10.6.6. It's certainly coming out on Tuesday. They've already pre-announced it for the iPad, blah, blah, blah. So Tony Oddjob says he's against subscriptions as well. And, if people, they say, oh, it's only $4.99 a month. That's not the point. That is not, you're completely missing the point if that's what your argument is, only $4.99 a month. And then $4.99 a month for Logic, and then where is Motion, and then where is Compressor, and then where is every other subscription app they're going to start throwing at us. It's not about the $4.99. It's about the start of subscription. So the argument that I keep hearing is Apple wanted to lower the entry bar to Final Cut Pro. Okay? You can do that with a $4.99 subscription and allowing people to buy the app. That does not affect the lowering the bar of entry to Final Cut. You can have both. Let some of us buy it if we want to, and people that want to just pay $4.99 a month, you have both of those features. Right now, you don't have one of those features. You're not giving customers what they want, Apple, Final Cut Pro team. You're not giving the customers what they want. A lot of customers would rather buy it. Say you pay $99 and it's for 4 years. And after that, we'll have to see how it goes. That's fine. I'd be much more apt to give Apple my $99 if I buy it, even though I do not have an iPad. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to be using it. That's the other issue. I just don't see myself editing on an iPad. At NAB, sure. NAB, sure. But for the most part, giving customers the ability to buy it does not take away from your subscription, your low point of entry to Final Cut subscription. Doesn't take away from that at all. But that's what a lot of your customers want. There's no reason in the world why you can't do both a subscription. Once again, for the low point of entry, the lower the cost of entry to Final Cut, it's still there, but give people who don't want a subscription the ability to buy it. That's what you should be doing. I've heard from people who I trust and who are in the know that subscription pricing for Mac is definitely coming. Can't give details. Yeah, I can tell you my expectations for Final Cut are very, very low at this point. Like I've been saying for weeks and months and months. If they went to a subscription model for Final Cut Pro, that's what would happen to my expectations for Final Cut. And at that point, I would very likely just jump over to Resolve. That's what I would do. If they offer you a subscription plus the option to buy, that's fine. Don't just cram subscriptions down our throats. Don't do it. I'm not making myself. I'm actually editing in Resolve these days because my expectations for Final Cut are so low. I'm not abandoning it. I'm not saying I'm abandoning it. I'm not. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm never going to use Final Cut again. Even if they went subscription, I would just leave it down here, use the version that I have. I would not support a subscription model for Final Cut. No way would I do that. I don't care what they did. If they go subscription only, I'll use the current version that I have as necessary, and then I'd start using, Resolve for my editing. I do not support it at all. Really interested in seeing how the new features work and what limitation it has, and of course, what features are coming to the Mac. So you can be sure that some of the features on the iPad are coming to the Mac, but some of the features that the Mac has are not going to the iPad. We already know that. You cannot go backwards. You cannot go backwards from the Mac version to the iPad version. Can't do it. Let me just check on something here real quick. It's going to keep on checking on things. Let me see what's going on here. Okay, we're good. We are good to go. By the way, look at my outdoors. Okay. Oh, look at that. It came back on again. Stop. Look at my outdoors today. Here is spring on the east coast of the USA. This is my backyard. Look how green it is. It's beautiful. We'll check in every so often to see if there's any birds at the bird feeder. That is my backyard. We have a garden back there, a couple gardens. We have different gardens spread around the place, different places. So let's keep on going here. So we don't know, once again, the iPad version is not a high-end version of Final Cut. Okay, it's not. It's a low-end version of Final Cut. It's not a powerful application like the desktop hopefully will keep on developing into. Right now, it's not developing into that. Right now, it's been stale for years, 4 years. I always get a kick out of this. People say, oh, the iPad version, that's why there's been no development for the Final Cut Pro for the last 4 years. I mean, there's been a little bit of development, but nothing like this, the Steve Bayes era Final Cut Pro. Nothing like that era. 10.0 through 10.4, through 10.4.9. That was a much better era for getting development for Final Cut. 10.5 and 10.6, it kind of stalled, and we've been stalled. We had 2 features a year ago, March, and we haven't seen any features, no updates since then, just bug fix, bug fix, bug fix. What kind of development pace is that for a professional application? Blackmagic is leaps and bounds, above Final Cut Pro at this point. So we'll have to see what happens with 10.6.6. I'm not really that, my expectations are low, so we'll see what happens. Because Final Cut dropped the X from the name sense for subscriptions, they should drop Pro because they're no longer trying to reach Hollywood or pros. That's an interesting point. Here's how I'm going to distinguish Final Cut Pro, the Pro version on the Mac. I'm going to call the iPad version Final Cut Junior. Okay? I'm going to call Final Cut Junior the iPad version. Final Cut Pro will continue to use the Pro moniker because they're not the same. They don't have feature parity. There's no way they have feature parity. Some of the things on the iPad will port over to the desktop. Like drawing on screen is a cool little thing, but that doesn't make it professional. That doesn't make it professional. Final Cut on the desktop is the professional app. Final Cut on the iPad, once again, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm saying I'm glad it's there for those that want to edit on it. There's nothing, I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen. I'm just saying that Apple should give people that want to buy the app the option. And they're not. They're not giving them the option, at least as far as we know. They're subscription only. So let's see what continues to happen with that. If that development, maybe at some point they will give us the option to buy it. And it won't change my opinion of where it sits in the hierarchy of Final Cut Pro. It won't change, is it up at the high end because they allow us to buy it? No, it'll still remain entry point level of Final Cut Pro. Does that mean it's not powerful? No, doesn't mean it's not powerful. It's a powerful little application. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But Blackmagic beat Apple to the iPad with Resolve. LumaFusion's been out there for years. Apple's even, presented some of their keynotes with LumaFusion, so it's been out there for years on the iPad. Very sophisticated. The LumaFusion is a one price of so far of $29, and you can buy an add-on package to do Final Cut Pro Export, which is $20, and they just came out with the second add-on package, which is Multicam, for another $20. I would much rather do that than pay a subscription. I would much rather support a developer developing separate apps, because Multicam is actually a separate app. It's a separate app. It took 3 years of development. I would much rather pay one time for that, get the updates to support LumaFusion, LumaTouch. This drip, sneaking in a subscription here, sneaking in a subscription there, one after the other. This constant drip is what I absolutely don't want to do. And I refuse to do it. I'm not going to do it. So, chances are the Pro Apps team needs more cash flow and will adopt the subscription model across the board. I don't think so. If you want to see a revolution in the Final Cut Pro community, try that. That would be that would be the same level of mistake that they did when they switched over from Final Cut Pro 7.0.2 to Final Cut Pro 10.0. It'd be the same level of mistake at that point. You'd see hordes and hordes of people dropping using Final Cut Pro, and I would not blame them at all. I'd be very, very surprised if they tried that. Now, once again, offering it as an option is different than cramming it down your users' throats. Don't try that. That would be a very, very, very bad thing. Everybody, I think, in the Final Cut Pro community, including myself, would not object. I'm not going to say everybody. Most people that have used Final Cut for the last 11, 12 years for one price would not object if they charged for a major update. Just say $99 for Final Cut Pro 11. That's fine. That's fine. No problem doing that. No problem doing that. They've already given us the entry-level Final Cut Pro for $4.99 a month on the iPad. They don't need to do that for Final Cut Pro. They don't need to do an entry-level Final Cut Pro now on subscription. You already did that. You already said that the iPad version, you wanted to lower the bar of entry. You've done that. You've done that with the iPad version. It's not for me. I like editing on the desktop. I like Mac OS a lot more than iPad OS. And I like Mac OS a lot more than iOS, period. I enjoy working on my Mac a lot more than I work on the iPad. However, you like working on the iPad? I am happy for you. I am happy that it's there for those that want to do that. There's no argument for me. But don't tell me, oh, it's only $4.99 a month. And then what about Logic? That's another now it's $10 a month. What about Motion and Compressor? You're not going to get those. You have to go back to the Mac for more advanced coloring features and for tracking and stuff. Well, then why am I entering on the iPad to begin with? Let me just stay on the Mac and I don't have to worry about going back and forth. That's one of the points. To reach Pro, they would need collaboration, yes. Features, I use Revit. I'm not sure what that is. For blueprints, and it features some stuff. This is what editors need. Yes, they need collaboration for sure. But I would be surprised if they're not working on that, right? I've heard the same. If all the Pro apps turn to subscription, I'm dropping it like I dropped Adobe. If they want us to pay for updates, fine. Give us the choice which updates we want and which ones we don't. Absolutely. Don't make my current version of Final Cut Pro stop working because I'm not paying your monthly ransom. It's what it is. It's a ransom. Now, the iPad is different than Adobe. Number one, it's only $4.99 a month. That's true. And you can run it for a month, and then you can not use it for 2 or 3 months and then come back to it for another $4.99. So you don't even have to pay the $50 a year, which if I did that, that's exactly what I would do. I would not have it run continuously. If I needed it for a month, for NAB. I want to use it in NAB, which I'm not because I'm using LumaFusion. But if, suppose I wanted to run it at NAB, okay, I'll run it for the month of April. At the end, right off the bat, I'll go on my Apple subscription and uncheck it so it doesn't auto-renew because I don't want it in May and June and July. I like editing on Mac OS. I like editing on my laptop. I like my big screens. I like my audio interface. I like editing on Mac OS. I like editing. YouTube just decides to turn itself on every so. I monitor so I can just monitor things, make sure things are working properly. One thing I'm going to check on, is it working? Let's do that. Is it working? Yes, finally. Yeah, it is. Okay, I want to make sure. I had problems earlier in the day. It wouldn't go to Twitter Live. Now it's back on Twitter Live. We are both. So people, people say, oh, I've heard that all the Pro apps are going subscription. I'm not giving that a whole lot of credence. I'm not saying it won't happen. Not at all. I'm just saying I would be shocked and extremely disappointed if that was the case. If they offered a subscription alongside the ability to buy it outright, that's a different issue. Don't take our Final Cut Pro that we have it away from us. That would be a huge, huge mistake on Apple's part. I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is a test, and people are objecting to this test at $4.99 a month on the iPad. I have lots of people. The majority of people don't want it. They don't want this subscription. It's not about the $4.99. It's a constant drip, 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 subscription, drip, drip, drip. A company like Apple, I'm not talking about third-party developers now. Okay, I'm not talking about that. I support some third-party developers that have subscriptions. Apple is one of the richest companies in the world. Okay? They give away iOS for free. They give away Apple TV for free. They give away Mac OS for free. They give away Pages for free. They give away Notes for free. They give away Keynote for free. They give away Numbers for free. They don't charge for any of those apps. Are you going to start charging for those too on a subscription basis? Or just this $4.99 iPad version of Final Cut? Final Cut Junior. I'm calling it Final Cut Junior. We'll see. And once again, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm saying I do like it. I don't like the subscription model, and I'm not buying a new iPad. And I like editing on Mac OS a lot more than I like editing on iPad OS. So it's not for me, but I'm glad it's there for you. I'm absolutely glad it's there for you. I can definitely see subscription for Final Cut Pro 11 probably fall, in my opinion. I don't think so. I think Final Cut Pro 11 might be, if you own the existing version of Final Cut, hey, Final Cut Pro 11, $99 if you already own Final Cut Pro 10. For those that buy it outright, $299. That's fine. I don't think many people would object to that unless you just bought Final Cut in the last couple months. Maybe then. I don't see it subscription only. Resolve has free version for both iPad and desktop. Yes. And if you want the Pro, Resolve is still a one-time fee. Exactly. And let me tell you, I edit with Resolve. I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, I have more time in Final Cut, which is the reason that I keep going back to Final Cut, but I like DaVinci Resolve. I like it a lot. And I like LumaFusion. I'm wondering now that Apple has entered the iPad space, which really was dominated by LumaFusion and a few others, if now they will spend more time developing a desktop Mac version of LumaFusion. I would like that as well. I like all three of them. I like Mac, I like Final Cut Pro, I like DaVinci Resolve, and I like LumaFusion. So between the three of them, I'll be fine at going forward. So let me just pull this up real quick. Video. Let me just pull this up. Let me show you. Okay, this is a version of this little quick clip that I edited in DaVinci Resolve. The captions, text to script, and transcriptions are fantastic. Fantastic in DaVinci Resolve. This is what just a 1 minute clip, not even 30 seconds. Could we see Final Cut Pro on the iPad? At some point, whenever that happens, if it happens in 2023 or 2024, but it's not going to be the full version of Final Cut. I've seen some reports says feature parity. It's not going to have feature parity because what am I going to do with my 1,500 Final Cut Pro plugins? They're not going to port over seamlessly to the iPad version of Final Cut. There's no way that's going to happen. It's a lot of work to do a plugin for an iPad versus Mac OS, iOS, iPad OS versus Mac OS. So it's not going to be feature parity because if it was feature parity, all my plugins would work on the iPad. All my RAIDs would be able to connect to the iPad. Both of those things aren't going to happen on the iPad version. So let me see that. Did I have that off? Let me see what we got here. I would be surprised if we get any feature with 10.6.6. My predictions are low. I do expect features coming soon this year. Apple's got to update. You know what? If they are just putting 10.6 out, 10.6.6 out just to be compatible with iPad, give us an announcement at the same time. Give us an announcement or at WWDC. Say, hey, 10.6.6 is just a compatibility, maybe a bug fix with people who are having problems with the AU problem still. Maybe, but give us that as the update for the iPad, the compatibility, but tell us we have a new version of Final Cut coming out in the fall, later this year. Final Cut Pro 10.7, Final Cut Pro 11, whatever you want to call it. Tell us at the same time, and you will avoid a lot of negativity. If you only release 10.6.6 and it doesn't have any features, and you're completely radio silent about the future of Final Cut, and you're all giddy, oh, the iPad version, the entry-level version, Final Cut Junior, that's what all you're excited about. Final Cut Pro users want to hear about Final Cut on the Mac. I want to hear about the future of Final Cut on the Mac. Okay? The celebration of iPad Junior on the iPad is one thing, and I'm not making fun of people, once again, that use it. I am completely glad it's there, but don't try to substitute that for the development of the Mac version. There's two different things going on there. Two different things going on there. A lot of more comments. Let's keep on going. The subscription model thing has me concerned about Apple nickel and diming. Yes, are you going to start charging for macOS updates, pages, numbers, keynote? Exactly. They used to charge for macOS. Back when 10.0 came out, I bought it. I bought macOS. And I think the next year, at some point, they stopped charging. I think the update to 10.1 was $29 or something. macOS might have been $100. I can't remember. macOS 10.0 was that might have been $100 or $129, and then the 10.1 version was like $29. Was an update. So then they stopped charging for it, and they don't charge for pages, and they don't charge for Keynote, and they don't charge for iOS, and they don't charge for tvOS, and they don't charge for macOS, and they don't charge for iPadOS, and they don't charge for QuickTime, and they don't charge for a lot of things. Okay? This is what I'm saying. Okay, you have the iPad version at $499 of Final Cut. Final Cut Junior at $499. That's fine. But if people want the option to buy it, why not give them the option to buy it? I would be much more apt to buy the iPad version, even if I didn't use it, if I could buy it. Just say $99 for 4 years or 5 years, something like that. You still have the entry level, which is what you keep talking about, people harping on it. Oh, they wanted to lower the bar to entry. Okay, well, that still stays. But give people the chance to buy it. Don't you want our money? You're not getting my money otherwise. You're not going to get it for the iPad version. But it would do two things if you let us buy it. Number one, I'd be much more apt to buy a new iPad, just to try it out. I'm not buying a new iPad other than that. I'm not going to buy it and add a subscription on top. I don't want either one of those things. There was an interesting overflow of 10 new features Resolve released in 18.5 that are quite game changers. I think it was Robin Cavanaugh who showed them on this channel. Listen, I got the 18.5 beta. I use it all the time for doing captioning, for doing open captioning. I love it. Or I can just do, so there's two levels in Resolve 18.5. You can click on a clip in the browser and just transcribe that clip. And then in a couple minutes, you get a text file that has your complete transcription. You can change the font size and you can highlight text, and it selects that portion of the video in the preview monitor. Then you can just drop that portion into your timeline. Okay? That's one way of doing it. You can also, once it's in the timeline, you can go to the timeline and you can add subtitles. You select the timeline, add subtitles. It'll go through and add all of your subtitles on one track. It's very, very effective. It doesn't cost. This is a studio version, by the way. This is not the free version, the studio version. I have the studio version and I really like it. You can select all your captions. You can raise and lower them, add backgrounds. You can change the font, all of them at one time. I really like that feature alone. Where is Final Cut on that? I'll tell you where they are. They're following Adobe and they're following Blackmagic. They're following. They're not leading. They're following. They're not leading. Same with the iPad version. LumaFusion on the iPad has been featured by Apple in their presentations for years. Blackmagic came out and beat Apple to the iPad. Okay, now Apple finally got Final Cut to the iPad, but it's following these companies. It's not innovating. It's not leading like it did at one point. That's one of the issues that I'm having. And the desktop version is completely stalled in its tracks. Will Final Cut Junior plugins work on Final Cut Pro? You mean from the iPad to the desktop? No, they will not. Developing plugins, why do you think LumaFusion's been out for years? They started with a couple of plugins included. It's a different, you have to rewrite the entire plugin in different language. I don't know what language it is, iPad OS something. They are not the same. The Mac version is Final Cut Pro. The iPad version is Final Cut Junior. Once again, I like it. And I'm not saying that people who edit on the iPad are anything. I'm just saying they specifically wanted a lower point of entry. They've got it. They've got it now. But I'm going to distinguish between the two. Final Cut Pro is a pro-level video editor on the Mac. Final Cut Junior is the version that they developed for the iPad. Everything that the Pro Apps team is doing feels like what Adobe did. And they went to subscription. These are dark days, and I see Nexus from Final Cut Pro updates have been mostly worthless. I completely understand that. I am not abandoning Final Cut at this point. I'm not going to do that, and I probably won't. But I'll use it less. If they meet my low expectations and that's all they do, they've been doing it for years. My expectations used to be way up here. When I went to Final Cut Pro Creative Summit in 2017 and 18, they were way up here, and I was not disappointed. 2019 brought my expectations way down, and ever since then, they've been going down, 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 and down. So I want to see them raise it up. I'm not giving up that they won't. I am not giving up that they won't. Let's look at the backyard, see what's going on there. No birds. I'm surprised. It's a beautiful day out back. No birds. I thought there might be some out there. Let's go back. So, yeah. So we're calling it Final Cut Junior, and Final Cut Pro's on the Mac, Final Cut Junior's on the iPad. I'm not going to agree with the dark days thing. I would pay $169 for a major Final Cut Pro update. I would pay whatever they want to charge for Final Cut Pro 11. It'd have to be a brand new app built from the ground up again. Or if 10.7 was a big, big update, $99, I have no problem doing that. No problem doing that. Subscription, no, thumbs down. Let me see if I have that. Oh, I don't have that. Okay. I noticed iPad Pro features 10 gigabytes of RAM only on 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes, 128, 56. I'm investigating that. Or new laptop. I would, an iPad to me is a supplement to my MacBook Pro. For me, it's not going to replace my MacBook Pro. Now, if you like the iPad better, that's completely fine. I don't. I don't like iPad OS better than Mac OS, and I don't like the iPad better than my MacBook. That's me. I completely respect you if you like that better. That's fine. If they want us to have a portable editing platform, we don't need the iPad. We already have MacBook Pros. You can just buy the smallest MacBook and still edit location fully. I keep hearing they wanted to lower the entry point for Final Cut. Well, they've done that. Final Cut Junior is the lowest entry point for Final Cut. They could follow the Affinity suite of apps, directly pay discount for any new app, and just keep the old one. Did this recently, they went from V1 to V2, and it's one-time fee either way. Yes, I have both Affinity and I have Pixelmator Pro, and I will have I want to support, listen, first off, there's a big difference between third-party apps and Apple. Okay? Apple has more money than God. It just has an enormous amount of money. Do I want them to continue making money? Absolutely. But they give away a dozen apps for free. Okay? So if they needed money, they would be charging for those apps as well. I'm not suggesting that they do that, by the way. I'm not suggesting that they start charging for Keynote and Pages and Numbers and QuickTime and macOS and iOS and tvOS and iPadOS. I'm not suggesting that. But if they needed money, they would charge for those. They don't charge for those. And I'm not saying they don't charge for the Final Cut Pro and the iPad. I want them to have some kind of a charge. Just give us the option to buy it for those that want it. If they allowed us to buy it instead of the subscription, I would be more apt to buy a new iPad to try it out. I'm not going to edit on an iPad when I have my MacBook Pro. I'm just not going to do it. I think I have audio now. I respect DaVinci and what they are doing, but I just dislike their interface. Too much going on. Like Premiere, I'll stick with Final Cut Pro and LumaFusion for iPad. That's absolutely. I guess my audio is muted. Let me see. I don't think it's muted in audio. Let me just check. Every so I monitor, so I can just monitor things, make sure things are working. It's on for me. I think I had it muted. I think I had it muted myself. Anyway, even if I'm muted, you guys can keep on talking. Subscription for Final Cut would be $30 a month for desktop. No audio. No way I'm going to pay that. Let me just see if this is still no way I'm going. No, my audio is back. That was my fault. That wasn't YouTube. I muted myself when I went away and I forgot to come back. Thank you, everybody, for telling me my audio was out. I have to keep on monitoring my board there. I hope that's not too much. I see $12.99, but with subscriptions over the years, they will increase. Take Disney, for instance. Yes. Is there someone to talk to him? When you run a business, you want to maximize profits and minimize costs. Subscription services just a never-ending cost. Why would anyone agree to them? I have audio on my end. Let me just check let me check YouTube again. Hold on a second. Never-ending cost. Why would anyone agree to them? So my audio should be back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I muted myself and didn't talk. I'm sorry. try to keep that. They just want $5 a month junior. For a junior version of the app on iPad, can only see it being at least double, triple for the full desktop. And what is that per seat? I have it back now. Sorry. I have Final Cut Pro on my Mac Studio and on my MacBook Pro. Do I have to pay for two? I don't think there was 15 minutes with no audio, was there? I would subscribe for sound. Okay, I'm sorry. I just wasn't. I had to pay more attention to the comments. We should have it now. Audio is back. Thank you. Look, I'm really sorry for that. I've just been repeating the same stuff. I'm surprised there's not outrage for a subscription for Logic. I make money every day with videos I've made with Final Cut Pro. It's much harder to make money with music quickly, in my opinion. Absolutely. Some bean counter probably looked at the number of Final Cut Pro users, said, hey, let's milk all of them so we can have champagne showers. There's a premium to use Mac products. They don't need to go subscription. There absolutely is a premium for Mac product. I love good champagne, the bubbles, the golden color. And you need a hefty iPad, exactly. I don't know how much RAM I have, 56, 98 gigabytes of RAM. I can't imagine working on some of these projects with low RAM. And you need a hefty iPad. You can't buy the base. It doesn't allow you to hook up, drive, and edit off it. You have to import everything to the iPad and edit on that. So you need lots of money. Champagne showers. I agree with Parsley. We should be enjoying champagne if we don't pay for subs. More Resolve tutorials for me. Man, listen. Resolve has a gigantic resource online for editing all their apps. They have the best, hands down, online training of any NLE by far. And it's free. And it's free for all their products. I recently bought the version of the iPad Pro just before they went M1, so at least I don't have to even consider this product. There you go. I don't like it, and I don't like anything they are doing. The audio plugins or third-party content coming to the App Store will be macOS and iPadOS cross-compatible. That would be interesting, but there's two different plugins unless they come up with a way to make one plugin to work for both. I guess they could have. Content coming to the App Store will be macOS and iPadOS. iPad just... Now, YouTube just turned itself on. I'm monitoring you closer. The Blackmagic free tutorials are good, and Ripple Training has content. Yes. If you've noticed Ripple Training over the last 3 or 4 years, their Final Cut Pro training is way down because there's been no significant updates. The Resolve training has gone way up. They've done 16, 17, and 18, I think. They gave you a free update if you went from 17. If you bought 17, you got the free update to 18. So if you notice them themselves, look at the training at NAB for Final Cut. It's almost non-existent. People are not interested in Final Cut for the most part. I am still, obviously you are. We want the team to do good stuff with it, continue doing good stuff. I was just going to say the same thing. Ripple Training is good, and so are Blackmagic freebies. You can get up and running quick. And of course, there's YouTube. There's plenty of stuff on YouTube. They pay the Pro Apps team too much for what we've been getting. Absolutely. Udemy Resolve training is excellent as well. There you go. I would gladly pay $4.99 to try out the new Final Cut Pro. I'm not paying $1,200 to buy a new iPad Pro just to try something I already own on Mac and has less features. It's not as powerful. My sources tell me the Pro Apps team was definitely facing internal resource challenges, and the subscription initiative is a desperate means to self-fund and save their jobs, obviously. You know what? They probably have 5 or 6 million Final Cut Pro users at this point. Just to say 5 million. 5 million people have bought Final Cut Pro. That's 1 $1.5 billion with a B dollars from just Final Cut Pro. Okay, if they need money, put out a good feature-rich update and charge us $99 for it. However, don't spring it on us without advance warning. Come out and say in a few months, we got this brand new version of Final Cut coming out. It took a lot of resources. It's going to be a $99 upgrade fee, but it'll be full price for people that don't have Final Cut Pro 10. Nobody's going to object to that. Don't go subscription. That would be horrible. Absolutely horrible. I agree with what has been said so far. The seemingly imminent Mac subscription plan will be a major coffin nail for me. Yes. For a lot of us. You would see even more. Waveform Podcast has an interesting podcast about Final Cut Pro on iPad yesterday. This is the Marquise Brownlee's podcast. There you go. At this point, any update will be a what? Catch-up update. Absolutely. They're catching up all the way around. I mean, they're going to do transcriptions for us. Okay, well, Blackmagic has it already. Premiere came out with it already. You're catching up all over the place. Catching up for the iPad version, all over the place. It's my friend Torgrim. Hi, all, just joining from Oslo. Agreed, Richard. Set the iPad aside and give us a major update. Absolutely. We want the update. We want the Mac version updated. Don't use the iPad as this is what we've been doing for the last couple of years. Baloney. You've given us excuse after, I'm not saying you, but people go, oh, the iPad hasn't been developed. I mean, the Mac version hasn't been developed because of, first it was Metal 2. Then it was Apple Silicon. Now, they've been working on the iPad version. Baloney. I don't accept any of those excuses. Not a single one. Blackmagic had to do the same thing. They had to do Metal 2. They had to do Apple Silicon. And they had to do a version for the iPad. They are leaps and bounds over the development of the Final Cut Pro. Leaps and bounds. Don't give me those excuses. People keep offering me excuses. I've heard all the excuses. I don't accept the excuses. I don't accept them. People saying there are financial reasons for Final Cut issues and logic updates, maintenance, call BS, makes me call BS about the Final Cut money issues. Yeah, I don't believe that either. First off, Resolve is light years ahead of Final Cut. First off this. Look at all the apps that give away for free. Look at all the apps that give away for free. Are there a dozen? There's close to a dozen apps that give away for free. Charge for those. Don't charge for Final Cut Pro. I mean, a reasonable amount. Like I said, if you need money, say, hey, we want to put more resources. Here's Final Cut 11, $99 for existing Final Cut Pro users, $299 for brand new users. There's your resource. But you haven't given us anything for 4 years. Why should we be paying for something you haven't given us anything for the last 3 or 4 years, except for Final Cut Junior on the iPad? Tuesday will either be a big day or another disappointment. It'll be a big day for people that want to edit on an iPad. I'm not saying that I don't want that to happen. I want that to happen. I want that to happen for people that want to edit on an iPad. I don't. A lot of you don't. I also don't want a subscription. Those are the two things. I'm not buying a new iPad, and I'm not going to pay for another subscription. Subscriptions are constant. Drip, 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 drip. If I get Final Cut Pro, then I get Logic Pro. What about Motion? What about Compressor? What about blah, blah, blah? What are you going to charge for next? Apple's the richest company in the world. They have tons of money. Tons of money. Give some to the Final Cut Pro team. I hope Tuesday's not a disappointment for Mac users, for pro-level users. Let's not forget that even if they keep the Mac app subscription fee, they will not have to dedicate ongoing resources to the iPad, taking time away from the Mac version. I don't know how that works. Do they have a separate team for the iPad? Or is it all the Final Cut Pro team for both the Mac and the iPad? listen, the iPad version will generate some subscription revenue. So they could use that. I'd like to see it keep the iPad version separate and the Mac team. But the thing is, you haven't developed the Mac version for years, 3 or 4 years now. You've just done a couple of small updates for years. So we want the Mac version to take precedence over everything. That's what I want as a professional, as the pro level. I want the Mac version. Okay? I think most of us want it as well. So I thought Marquis was using his Mac Pro as a flower pot or an aquarium or something. I sold mine. I sold it for just under half price. Yes, you can focus on 2 things and be good. Listen, they had a tour of the Apple factory years ago. And they kept things undercover, but they did reveal there were over 600 or 700 people just working on the iPhone camera. 600 to 700 people just on the iPhone camera. Okay? Where do the people who work on iPad, on Keynote, and the people who work on Notes, and the people that work on Pages, and the people that work on Numbers, and the people who work on Mac OS, and the people that work on blah, 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 how do they get paid? How do they get paid? Pay the Final Cut Pro team the same way. Don't tell me that Final Cut Pro has to make all its own money. How does Pages make money? The Pages team. Mac sales. That's how they make money. Final Cut Pro does Mac sales. So I don't buy that the Final Cut Pro team needs the money. Not specifically. If you need the money, give us a great update and we'll pay for it, $99. And you can focus on 2 things. Can or can't. I would be fine. I would fire the whole Pro team. I don't want to fire them. They've been going by themselves. Final Cut Pro is really the only reason I own a Mac or pay that premium for the equipment. Absolutely. From one of mine, Maine as well. My birthday is May 24th, so a nice new Final Cut would be great. Happy birthday, Spot. Glad you could make it again. Torgrim says, haha, Final Cut Junior is the term we've been using now. Love it. Yes, it's Final Cut Junior. You don't have to say Final Cut Pro for the iPad. Just say Final Cut Junior and everybody knows what it is. It's the iPad version. My birthday is May 28th. An update would be great for the Mac. Absolutely. Well, you guys are up all these May birthdays this year. The reason they coded Final Cut Pro and Swift was to make it easier to maintain an iPad OS version at the same time. That makes sense. That makes sense. Give us some major updates to Final Cut Pro Desktop. Final Cut Pro Junior, can you go into Carl's Jr., eat a burger, and edit your video? There you go. You can do focus on 2 things and be good, sure, but the same number of bodies cannot accomplish the same amount in the same time when one set of bodies has to develop 2 platforms instead of 1. But if they do it with the common what they were just talking about, the common language, and it can be used on either, they wouldn't have to for the most part. There are going to be a few differences. Listen, that's for them to work out. Okay, we're not going to tell them how to run their business as far as coding for iPad OS and Mac OS. I have my preference. Most of us have our preference. We've been fighting for 10, 11, 12 years trying to say the Final Cut Pro is a pro application. We've been fighting for a long time. They come out with this $4.99 version, Final Cut Junior, and it's like, okay, well, that doesn't help us convince the high-end market that Final Cut is a serious contender, does it? No, it doesn't. It goes the opposite direction. That's okay, though. I'm not saying, I'm going to keep saying this. I'm glad the iPad version is available for those that want to use it. I'm very glad. It's not for me. What do you think the big WWDC announcements will be? VR glasses or iPad Pro 14? Or I'm hoping for a new iPad myself. I might, get an iPad Pro. And let me buy an iPad Pro with a free version of iPad Junior on it. That would be fine. That would be fine. But I'm really thinking there's going to be a M2 Extreme, a Mac Pro announced at WWDC, because I'm telling you, they've always announced Mac Pros at WWDC, going back 10, 15 years, to the Power Mac Pro, to the first cheese grater, to the first Intel, to the second Intel, to the 2019 Mac Pro. They've always announced them at WWDC. So if they don't announce the Mac Pro at WWDC, that means that there's probably not going to be a Mac Pro in 2023, which is like, what are you doing? You're so far behind schedule on the Mac Pro. So I expect a Mac Pro at WWDC, at least an announcement. If they have a Mac Pro on screen, I think they will show us a new version of Final Cut Pro, even if they don't say what it is. They could say a pre-release version of Final Cut Pro, or they can do what we want them to do and say, here's Final Cut Pro 11, coming out in a few months, coming out in 2023. Or this is Final Cut Pro 10.7, coming out, new features. The Mac Pro is going to take advantage of the new features. That would be one thing I expect. If a Mac Pro is announced, they might also have a new version of Final Cut at WWDC. That would be fine. Other than that, the glasses don't really interest me. Once again, I'm glad they're available for people that want them. A new iPad Pro would be interesting to me. I don't like buying technology that's, a couple years old. So if I wanted to get into it, I'd probably get a new iPad Pro, but I still would not get Final Cut Pro on it. I don't need it. They really should have called the iPad version Final Cut Express. Final Cut Junior works. And I don't even call it Final Cut Pro Junior, just Final Cut Junior. I think the camera features in the iPad version will be the camera features in iOS 17, which finally give us more control of their image. Let me tell you what's wrong with that scenario. My iPhone can do those now. I can do all those features that they showed for Final Cut Junior on the iPad. My phone can do them now with third-party apps. Third-party apps have access to all those features. White balance, ISO, aperture, all those things, volume control, volume meters. Third-party apps already can do it on the existing iPhone. It's not an iOS feature. They've just restricted, they've really dumbed down the iPad, the iOS, camera app. They've just completely dumbed it down. All those things that we saw in the quote-unquote pro camera in Final Cut can be done presently on the existing iOS and existing iPhones. You don't need Final Cut Junior to do those things. Don't need it. My point is, we've all been kvetching about lack of feature additions. Adding the iPad version and not more dedicated bodies can not help make that worse, or at least not improve it. Unless the teams are divided. No, I agree with you. No, I agree with you about that. I don't, all the accolades about the iPad version, and all the hubbub and all the excitement is fine, but it's still entry level. The reason they did it was to lower the bar of entry. Okay? Now they've done that. Give us an explosion of features for the Mac desktop version. That's the Final Cut Pro version. That's the Pro version. We appreciate your efforts, Richard. I'm really hoping we see something special soon with Final Cut Pro on the Mac. I hope so too. I absolutely don't want the Final Cut Pro team to meet my low expectations. I want them to blast it up in the air. That's what I want. I don't want them to meet my low expectations of Final Cut. I want them to blast it up. And I'm still hoping that can happen. There will be no Mac Pro. I think the possibility of no Mac Pro is, I don't care what the pundits are saying. I'm saying there's going to be a preview of a Mac Pro at WWDC. I'd be very surprised, because if it's not a preview, the odds of it not coming out in 2023 are less. Not impossible, but less. Every Mac Pro has been shown at WWDC. They didn't come out at WWDC. Most of them came out later in the year. If they don't show it at WWDC 2023, that means the odds of a Mac Pro coming out in 2023 are even greater that it won't happen, which means, boy, are they off on their prediction of when they're going to transition from Intel over the Power piece, over Intel to the M1 Max. They're completely off by a couple years on the Mac Pro. That would be interesting. I think you were totally correct, just dividing resources. I am not debating that. I'm just saying I hope that they have separate teams. Integrated chipset of the silicon architecture makes a Mac Pro even more niche than before. Graphic card upgrading was a major factor. And hard drive availability and modular everything. But not in the stock app. That's correct. That's what I'm saying. They're letting it out in iOS. But they don't, my point is, you don't need iOS 17. The features are already there. They're already in the phone. You don't need any advancement to iOS. The features are there. It's the app. It's Apple's app, camera app, that doesn't allow it. Not iOS. Not iOS. The camera app has to be updated. Give us a Pro Cam app. For our $1,500 iPhones, I have to buy third-party apps to get at those features. But they're there, not iOS dependent. Is there a cinematic mode recorded to ProRes on a third-party app? That would be amazing. If we don't get a true audio mix this time around, I think I'm done with Final Cut. I agree with you. That's one of the major things I should be having. Do you have any recommendations for USB-C hubs for using Logic or GarageBand and iPad? I would say go to OWC. I think they have a really good one that works on the iPad. OWC has it. Go over there and ask them questions. Ask their sales questions. That's where I would go if I get an iPad Pro. I'm not against an iPad Pro, but listen, right now I use LumaFusion and I read books when I'm in bed at night on my iPad Pro. Sometime I watch videos, YouTube videos, when I'm on I have a recumbent bike that I sometimes ride instead of doing my 2-mile walk in the morning. And I'll put the iPad up there rather than my iPhone if I'm going to be there a while and watch videos. Other than that, I don't use it that much. But, so go to OWC. M-chips don't have the power yet for a Mac Pro. That'd be interesting. Yes, but you don't have to spend extra money on third-party apps. No, I agree. I'm just saying that it's there now. The Pro camera features are available in the current phone and the current iOS. I understand that you don't need to spend money on third-party apps. I'm saying Apple could turn it on if they wanted to. It's not iOS dependent. They could turn it on at the current iOS and the current app. That's what my point is, I guess. Don't nickel and dime us, Apple. You have plenty of apps you don't charge for. Give us the option for the iPad OS version, iPad for the Final Cut Junior. Give us the option for Final Cut Junior to buy it. I don't mind. I want you to make money. That's fine. I'm not against you making money, but you have a dozen of apps that you don't charge for, including the Mac OS, iOS, iPad OS, iTV OS, Watch OS. You don't charge for any of those. Pages, Keynote, etc. How do they make money? By selling your hardware. How does the Final Cut Pro team make money? Well, the $300 for the app, that's 1 point something billion they've already made, they've already generated, plus they sell your hardware. They do both. You pay for the app and they sell your hardware. I don't want the Final Cut Pro team working off the proceeds of $4.99 a month. That's not enough. Let them do a major update to Final Cut Pro, which we're all been waiting for years. A major update. Don't mind paying $99 for it, but it's got to be Final Cut Pro 11. I don't want 10.6.6 with a couple of features. I want 10.6.6 with a couple of features to tie us over until either Final Cut Pro 10.7 or Final Cut Pro 11 come out. That would be fine. But if you're going to give us 10.6.6 with no features, let us know what's happening with Final Cut going in the fall. The problem is you don't let us know anything, except for once in a while you let something leak. I don't know if you know this, but you can get custom or different color fonts for that guitar amp. Yeah, you can get the front. The grill can be, you can get custom grills for the front. Yeah, I saw that. But like I said, this one is going back. And I got a black one coming on Wednesday, the black version, because they didn't have the black version, typical Fender coloring, when I bought this. They were sold out on this one store, and this one I got for $30 off. I got the black one for $40 off. They had a special, got it for $40 off list price. So instead of $229, it's $189. And that included free shipping. So that's coming Wednesday. So the next time, well, I'll probably be back on live Tuesday when the Final Cut Pro, when Final Cut Junior comes out for the iPad. But I don't have the black one then. I think I get it on Wednesday. I think the only feature of consequence we'll be getting is the background removal, which of limited use is already available as a plugin on other apps. Yeah. I don't want these drip drab features that nobody really asks for. I want the list of, I have 100 some features. I want powerful features. Innovation, where you can do it. You're kind of falling behind, you're falling way behind in innovation. I mean, bringing out the last two features we got, voice isolation was kind of cool, like it. Dupe detection, yes, I used it on my last documentary, but it's not innovative. Other NLEs have had dupe detection for years. We've been asking for it for 5-10 years, and we finally get it. I'm turning my mic off just a second. Turning my mic back on. I remembered this time. So here's the deal. I'm going to be back. I'm not leaving yet. I'm going to be back planning on being back next Saturday for Final Cut TV and Coffee for episode 17. That's going to be strictly the Saturday thing. Final Cut TV and Coffee is going to be the Saturday thing. I'll probably come back on Tuesday once the iPad version is around. Comes out, available. It's interesting you made a big deal about voice isolation when LumaFusion said in your interview they make it available to app creators. Yes. Well, I don't know if they didn't make a big deal about it. The users made a big deal about it, right? So it was kind of like a sleeper hit update. I said, wait a minute, this is pretty darn good. This is not background noise removal. This is voice isolation. It's different. They still have background noise removal. It's much better. So anyway, don't forget, while you're on the YouTube page, go over there and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up on this broadcast if you like it. Give me a thumbs up. It's always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe over there at YouTube. Like and subscribe. Yeah, give me a thumbs up on this. I'd appreciate it. It's little things that make a big difference. So every week, we just got 2 thumbs up. Thank you very much. It's little things like that. It makes a difference. It makes me want to come back on more. So I'm thinking about coming back on Tuesday. Look, Tuesday, thank you. Another thumbs up. Thank you very much. Tuesday, there's going to be, I would suspect, 100 YouTube tutorials on Final Cut Junior on the iPad. There's going to be 100 to sort through. I'm not going to watch them because I know how to use Final Cut already. I plenty of years on Final Cut. But there's going to be 100 YouTube videos. Let me make another prediction. Ripple Training will have a series of Final Cut Junior on the iPad over there on their website. Of course they will. Of course they will. Now, whether they'll probably have like a free version, a free tier, then another tier, well, you will be going to, pay for maybe some more sophisticated. And that's fantastic. That's fantastic. They haven't announced that yet, but my prediction is they will have Final Cut Junior on the iPad version of tutorials. That's fantastic. I'm really glad for people that want to edit on the iPad. But it's not feature parity on the iPad version and the Mac Pro version. The MacBook Pro version, the desktop version. It's not feature parity there. There's not. Here we are. Still no birds. Still no birds. I didn't forget to turn the audio back on. Let's see what else we have here. Let me get another video up here. What else do we have? Oh, we have this one. If you didn't see this, I'm not going to play the whole thing. This is the video that I put out last week. Top 10 reasons that I'm not going to buy Final Cut Pro on the iPad. Number 10, subscription only. Apple, your customers want to be able to buy Final Cut Pro on the iPad with a perpetual license. Give your customers what they want. They want to be able to buy it. Give your customers what they want. So I just bought a new domain. Taylor.video. I was kind of surprised it was available, so I bought that. Taylor.video. I switched my name on Twitter, if you've noticed, just to Taylor. I'm just Taylor. It's still at Richard Taylor TV, but my name on Twitter now is just Taylor, so that's the way I'm headed. Have you tested the LumaFusion to Final Cut Pro export? I have it. I bought it. But to be honest, I have not tested it. But let me tell you something about the folks over at LumaFusion. They are fantastic. Terry and Chris and the team over at LumaFusion are absolutely fantastic. They're very forthcoming when I interview them. They're saying, let me tell you something about the folks over at LumaFusion. They are fantastic. It's weird. YouTube just says, I'm going to turn on now. I monitor it down on my, so I have 3 screens. Let me show you what I have here. I have 3 screens and I can't show you, turn hiding on. So I can't show you, I can show you one of my screens. Let me see. Here. Oh, that's not it. That's not it. I got to go back over here. This is my main screen. Okay. So this is what I'm watching while we are broadcasting live. I have a 34-inch LG monitor, my main monitor. I have a preview monitor. I have a program monitor. I have audio. See the audio down there? Right down there? That's how I monitor my audio. And sometimes I'm looking at the screen and not monitoring my audio. This is the audio that's going out live on the, the live stream. So this is, I can tell when it's not there besides your comments, but I have this giant screen. This is great for Logic Pro and for Final Cut Pro. I have this really long timeline that I have. But besides that, down below me, I have my 16-inch MacBook Pro screen. And over to my left, this direction, this is my left. I can't tell what direction it is. This direction on my screen is another horizontal screen that I have that I keep stuff available for. I have another screen over there to look over sometime. But I have my laptop screen below me, and I have this giant 34-inch LG monitor that I really, really like a lot. Let me turn that off. There we go. So basically, Apple is going to make us pay a sub fee for us to slowly get features that Resolve is giving us for free. Not necessarily. Yes, Tony, that exactly. I'd be shocked. Not that I haven't been shocked before. I'd be shocked if Apple, well, let's see what they do. I don't have high confidence in 10.6.6 that's coming out on Tuesday. Final Cut Pro 10.6.6 will be out on Tuesday. I don't have high confidence. It could be out on Monday, but probably Tuesday. I do not have high confidence that 10.6.6 is going to be a big feature update. But throw us a couple of features in there while you're making the update, while you're making the compatibility to Final Cut Junior. Throw us a couple of features in there. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But let us know what's going on. Let us know what's going on with Final Cut, the future of Final Cut, because you haven't done it. You have not lived up to your letter that you responded to the Final Cut Pro community. You have not lived up to your promises in that letter. You have not. There's a couple of major things you have not done. We're going to discuss that at another point. That sounds exactly right. What's the learning curve on Ecamm? It's like anything else. It's a lot of steps, a lot of things, but it's pretty advanced, but it's also fairly simple. So, for example, right now I'm streaming to, they just incorporated multi-streaming. So I'm streaming to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter all at the same time from the app. But you have to learn things as anything. You have to learn it. I've been using it for years. I bought it. I'm a legacy user. I bought the app before they went subscription. But their subscription, because they offer multi-streaming, their subscription, I think, is the same price as Restream, and they give you so much more. And the Ecamm community is extremely, extremely friendly. And there's lots of help in the Final Cut Pro group. I mean, in the Ecamm groups, Facebook groups, and you can contact them directly. Ken and Glenn come on. They just were on, I think, last week talking about things, the two developers, a couple of brothers. And it's really good. So there's plenty of tutorials to get started, but it's not simple, but it is really good. Why don't we get the Resolve team to buy Final Cut Pro from Tim Cook? He doesn't seem to be that interested in Final Cut Pro anyway. Yeah. I like DaVinci Resolve a lot. Maybe the Final Cut Pro team is just so far away from editors they don't understand our needs and wants. This is one of the things that I tell them. Listen to normal editors. You're not listening to normal editors. I don't know who you're listening to, but you're not listening to everyday editors. It's not happening. You're listening to too many other people, not everyday editors. Let me see what's going on here. But you're not listening to everyday editors. Oh, there we go. That's one of the things. Contact me. I can put you in touch with everyday editors. I talk to them every week here on Final Cut TV and Coffee. You're just not. You have to listen to normal people, not just all Hollywood, not to just a YouTube crowd. I haven't sent any really concise feedback in the past. Many times I've never been contacted by the props team. I don't believe the claims that they listen to editors. What the claim is they read all of the things you send in. They have a team or a couple of people who read every request and every bug report. Doesn't mean they're going to respond to everyone, because they're not. They're not. I've been contacted by the Logic team on multiple occasions about issues that I was having. I'm not going to say any more than that. But they do read them all. Doesn't mean they respond to them all. It does not mean they respond to them all. It says they read them. So if you send information in, if enough people send information in and says, we don't care about iPad Junior, we don't want subscriptions, they would get the message. Once again, it's the Final Cut Pro team does not control everything that's said on but Final Cut. They have Apple corporate they keep bumping their heads into. It's a glass ceiling. They can't get past this point. So it's not all the Final Cut Pro team. That is 100% correct, Scott. They probably just delete our feedback. They read it. They read it. I know for a fact they read it. I do know that they read all the feedback, exactly. They do read it. Doesn't mean they're going to respond to everything. Yes, it's exactly correct. Reading it and acting on it are two different things. Well, you can imagine any big company, especially like Apple, they can't act on every single piece of feedback that they get, but that should not stop you from sending it in. The more they get feedback on a certain thing, the more likely they will respond to it. That's right. Where's the action? Look at keyframes. The proof is that we were all on the long-awaited bugs that still haven't been fixed after years. I'm not going to disagree with that. Still no birds. Oh, wait a minute. Let's check. No birds. I don't know where all birds are. I mean, usually they're out there this time. We have suet. Oh, you know what? The feeder is gone. Oh, that's one of the problems. There's only suet out there. Normally there's a little feeder, a seed feeder. It's not out there. Huh. I'll have to tell the person in charge of the bird feeder. Anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in today. But are there cats in the cat room? I don't know. I don't have that camera set up. I switched it to the outside backyard. The cats watch the bird feeders. I have gigantic picture windows. They watch the bird feeders. So, believe me, Scott, I am angry too. Way too many long-standing bugs. Well, what is going on with the audio unit bugs? Is that still going on? Somebody said... I saw somebody on Twitter that said it was fixed with the latest Mac OS, but then I saw somebody else that said it was not fixed. I'm on, what am I on? I'm on, let me see, about this Mac. I'm on Ventura 13.1. I'm on Ventura 13.1. That's how long since I've updated. Maybe the cats got to the birds. Now, the cats are indoor only, and the birds are outside only. We don't allow that. We don't allow the intermingling of cats and birds. They can watch them all they want. But we take care of all of our animals, the outdoor animals that we have around here, and the indoor cats. Cats belong indoors. They don't belong outdoors. It's very dangerous for them. So anyway, everyone, I am going to be... Final Cut TV and Coffee will remain on Saturdays for the foreseeable future. We've had a lot of activity in the last couple of weeks because of the Final Cut Junior on the iPad. So that's pretty cool. And listen, I'm excited about Final Cut Junior on the iPad. I'm really excited about it. It's not for me at this point. If I decide to get a iPad Pro, a new iPad Pro, I might try it out for a month, but I'm not going to do any serious editing. I can't. I have incredible power, incredible resources. I have 2 different audio interfaces. I have 3 different screens. I have RAID connected to my setup. I love my MacBook Pro. I almost got an M2 MacBook Pro, but I said I'll wait for the M3. I'll skip one generation. And then I might have to keep this one because when I get an M3 MacBook Pro, a 16-inch, I'll get the top of the end. I'll get at least a 4 terabyte. This is 4 terabyte SSD, at least 4 terabyte. If my RAIDs don't connect to the new Mac OS or the new MacBook, I have to keep this one. I'll have to keep this one to connect to all my RAIDs. Now, my main RAID will, because they update that one all the time. But I have 2 legacy RAIDs that I can still connect to this MacBook Pro, RAID 5s. One's a Promise, one's a G-Tech. And they're both RAID 5s that still connect to this M1 Max MacBook Pro. No guarantee they'll connect to the M3 version. So if they don't connect to the M3 version, I have to keep this MacBook Pro because they do connect to it. So we'll see what happens there. I certainly don't need 2 MacBook Pros. Anyway, I'm going to head out. I sure appreciate everybody tuning in today. I don't expect any announcement between now and Tuesday. I expect Final Cut Pro 10.6.6 will be released on Tuesday. Let's hope the Final Cut Pro team has some features in there for us. New features, bug fix, get the AU audio unit validation bug fix updated, fixed for everybody. I sure appreciate. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget to go over there, like and subscribe, please, over there, my YouTube channel. I don't know how you're doing on Facebook, but I'm on Facebook. We're on Twitter. And we'll be back probably Tuesday. There'll be hundreds and hundreds. There'll be 100 people out on Tuesday with Final Cut Pro on the iPad. Final Cut Pro on the iPad. Oh, I'm calling it Final Cut Junior on the iPad. Final Cut Junior on the iPad is what I'm calling it. To distinguish, just to distinguish. It's not the full version of Final Cut. It's a, scaled down version. Thank you for giving me the thumbs up. I appreciate it. Just got a couple more. Really appreciate it. It's little things like that. It makes a big difference. I mean, I come on here every week, and I just love talking to everybody. I love providing a community, a worldwide community, where we can come in and talk about Final Cut. The Final Cut Pro team watches this. People from the Final Cut Pro team watch this broadcast. Right? They do. They do indeed. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'll be back Tuesday on the YouTube channel when the iPad version comes out. I'm not sure what the subject matter will be yet. I'll figure something out. But as far as today's discussion, did Final Cut Junior on the iPad move the needle more towards Hollywood and professional filmmaking, or did it move it away from Hollywood and professional filmmaking? That was the subject for today's discussion. Let's see what the Final Cut Pro team has in store for Final Cut Pro and desktop Mac. And Apple, give us an option to buy Final Cut Junior on the iPad. Give us an option to buy it. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you all later.